All right. Good to see everybody today. I wanted to do a surprise YouTube Live today to talk about a subject that often people overlook when they're seeking to solve the challenges that they're having with their speech. So, what we want to look at is this idea of self-talk, how to self-talk your way to smooth and confident speech. The main thing that we're going to look at is, well, I'm not going to call it the main thing, but we're going to look at number one, what is self-talk? Number two, why is it important? Number three, how do we do it? Number four, what are some very specific things that you can say to yourself? So I'm also going to take some questions, all right? And I'll try to take those questions kind of at different stopping points throughout this particular YouTube Live. So great. It's great to see all of you who are here. And once again, if you have a question, go ahead and post it in the chat. If you'd like, it might be better to wait until I actually get to the question and answer portions of this YouTube Live, but feel free to answer questions. How's everyone doing today? Good. First of all, just want to make sure that you can hear and see me okay. You should be able to hear and see me fine. But if you can't, please go ahead and post that into the chat box. All right, so let's get started. Let's talk about what is self-talk and why should you be concerned about it? Why is it important to you? How can it actually help you? So if you're watching this video, it is because you've been out there searching for resources to help you with challenges that you may have in your ability to communicate, to articulate your thoughts smoothly, clearly, without stumbling, without getting foggy, without forgetting what you want to say, without rushing, right? Without people saying that they couldn't understand you, or without them having a strange look on their face. You want to be able to articulate your thoughts without stuttering or stammering, perhaps, right? So the solution that I'm going to be providing you today is actually going to be one of the most important solutions that you ever hear me talk about. And I've talked about this many times before. In fact, we probably talk about it all the time because it's so very important that without it, nothing else really works. Okay. So it's great to see everyone here. And once again, I will get to your questions as this is a YouTube Live. So I'm not just going to stand here and talk, but I will talk and then I'm going to get to your questions. Okay. So first, let's talk about what is self-talk and why it's important for you. Self-talk is simply what you say to yourself. It's the things that you actually say to yourself, the things that you think internally. So you could consider self-talk as what you think about, okay? So self-talk is what you think in your mind. It's what you say to yourself. Sometimes you can be thinking something and not aware of it, or sometimes you can be actively talking to yourself internally, right? Silently. You can actually be actively saying something to yourself, okay? Or you could be saying something aloud. Maybe other people can't hear it, but you might be saying it aloud, like, man, why did I do that? Oh, shoot, I did that again, right? That's self-talk. Or you could be saying that silently. Why did I do that, right? Or you could just be thinking it, right? But the same thought, right? So it's self-talk. Now, why is this important? It's important because we all talk to ourselves. Now, how do we know this? Well, because we all think. We all think. And the problem is that we often are not aware that we're thinking, okay? We're not aware that we're thinking. And so I call these trains of thinking. If you are on a train of thinking that's negative, where you're anticipating, and I have many, many, many clients who, when they come in, these are some of their main issues. They're constantly anticipating that they're going to have trouble with certain words or certain letters or certain speaking situations. They're anticipating, they're worried about it, they're thinking about it. So if you're on a train of thinking that's taking you in that direction and you're not aware of it, then where are you going to continue to go? You're going to continue to go in that direction because you're just not aware of it. It's automatic. It's a pattern. It's a habit. So what you have to do is first become aware that you're thinking and what you're thinking. Become aware that you're thinking and what you're thinking. So let's jot that down. So we're talking about self-talk here. All right, so the first one is awareness. Awareness of what? That you're thinking and what you are thinking. Okay? Awareness that you're thinking and what you're thinking. Okay. So you may not think that this is very important, but it is, because if you find yourself thinking negatively about yourself, about your speech, about speaking situations, if you find yourself thinking negatively about that, then you have to understand that that's a pattern, that that's a habit, right? It's your way of thinking. It's your mindset. It also has to do with your speaking identity. And because that's the case, because that's your pattern, that's your normal way of thinking, you're not going to be able to change that unless you become aware, first of all, that you're actually thinking, right? Okay, I'm actually thinking right now. I'm actually talking to myself. I'm thinking something. I'm feeling something. I have this kind of impression. The second thing is that you want to be aware of, what am I thinking? So when I am speaking, what am I thinking? When I'm about to answer the phone, when I'm about to raise my hand, when I'm about to give a presentation or share my thoughts, what am I thinking? What am I thinking before? What am I thinking during? And what am I thinking afterwards? So this awareness is critically important. Now, let me just step outside. So some of you might be watching this and you're looking for very, very specific techniques or strategies to help you with airflow, to help you with rhythm, to help you pronounce certain words. And we have done, and we will continue to do lots of videos on that. Inside of our self-study system, we have very, very specific sessions that talk about what we call proactive speaking skills, right? So we talk about those things. However, none of those things will work in the moment, right, when you need them, or even when you're not in a high-pressure situation, when you're just talking with your friends, right? Low pressure. None of those things will really work unless you're able to tell yourself to do it, right? Because your brain's not going to let you just start doing something different automatically. You're going to keep doing what you're doing unless you break that pattern. We call that a pattern interrupt. So unless you're aware of what you're thinking, that you're thinking and what you're thinking, and you say, wait a minute, I need to be doing this. I need to be doing this. Unless you do that, none of the techniques are going to work for the long term. They may work for a day or two or a week or something like that, but unless you do it all the time, every day, every time you speak, they simply won't have that lasting change. That's why this is so important. So, self-talk. Awareness is the first step. Now, once you're aware, what's the next thing? Next thing that you have to do is decide, okay, now that I'm aware, how do I want to think? What do I want to think, right? So first step is awareness. The second one has to do with your goal. the change that you want to make. So that's represented by this question here. Okay, so now that I'm aware of how I'm thinking, how do I want to think? How do I want to feel? How do I want to speak? All right. So that's your goal. That's the change that you want to make. So where do you get that information? Well, that's when you go out and you do your research. You've got your YouTube videos, you've got articles, you've got books, audio books, programs like mine, you have coaching. So you find the very, very best information out there, the very, very best training that's proven, training that's scientifically based and experientially based, right? That people actually say this works. And training that maybe you've tried some of yourself. It says, okay, I've tried this and it works. I just need to be more consistent, or I need something that's a little more structured. So you go out and you find the information that you need that's going to help you achieve your speaking goal or your thinking goal or whatever. So I'd like to feel more relaxed. I like to stop rushing. So I'd like to feel more relaxed, like to feel more calm. I'd like to speak a little slower, not slow, but I like to speak a little slower. I'd like to feel more confident, right? So you define how you want to speak, how you want to feel, even what you want to think, right? I like to think of myself as a confident speaker. I like to think of myself as an amazing speaker. It's the kind of speaker that people want to listen to. So when you do this, now you have a clearer picture of what you want. So here's where you are, where you were, and here's where you want to be. Now, this next step has to do with actually practice. Okay, so you have these thoughts. You say, okay, boom, these thoughts are not taking me where I want to go. Where do I want to go? Here's how I'd like to start feeling. Here's how I'd like to start acting. Here's how I'd like to start speaking. All right, how do we get there? Well, you begin to repeat or practice those thoughts that's going to put you on that train that's taking you in the direction that you want to go. So let me give you some specifics. Let's say that you find yourself feeling anxious all the time, or feeling like you need to rush, like you need to hurry up and get this out. I need to hurry up and get this out. I know that this is what many people think because I've had hundreds, if not thousands of people tell me that this is what they think. So you feel like you have to rush. So instead of feeling like I have to rush and I got to hurry up and get this out, or if I don't hurry up and get this out, I might get stuck. So that's a belief. That's also a way of thinking. So instead of thinking that, you now want to tell yourself something different. No, wait a minute. I don't have to rush. I can relax. I can slow down. I can take my time. I don't have to rush. I don't have to rush. I can slow down. I can relax. I can take my time. So that's something very, very specific that you can say to yourself, self-talk. Now, some people might say, well, I tried that and it worked a little bit, but then it stopped. Okay, so why does that happen? Well, that happens because you've created a pattern of thinking, right? And your brain, because it's very efficient, it doesn't want to give up that pattern. It doesn't want to create a new pattern because it's going to require more effort and more energy. Your brain is very, very efficient, as I said, and so it doesn't want to use that extra effort, that extra energy. So we'll try to keep you in your comfort zone. That is the way you currently think, the way you currently speak. So in order to do that, you have to be very intentional and very conscious. And there needs to be repetition over time, over a period of time. So just because you say to yourself one time or 10 times, no, I don't have to rush, I can take my time, doesn't mean it's going to instantly work, or it might instantly work, but doesn't mean it's going to work continuously unless and until you repeat that same mantra, if you will, over and over and over in every speaking situation, right? Wait, I don't have to rush. I can take my time and say what I want to say. I don't have to rush. I can relax, I can slow down, I can take my time. So the more you say this to yourself in speaking situations, regardless of whether you think it's working or not, the more this becomes a pattern. What you're going to do, you're going to start to actually look for many successes. So as you say this to yourself, you're going to find that there will be times where you do slow down, where you are more relaxed, right? And so then you say, wow, I actually was more relaxed that time. I actually did feel a lot more calmer. I actually was able to slow my speech down just a little bit. It's a little more than what I usually do. So you celebrate that success, right? And you keep repeating it. And what you're going to find is that you may go through, if you will, kind of a pattern where you might experience some initial success, then you'll see a dip. But if you keep doing it, you'll start coming out, right? And you'll find that you'll have little dips, but those little dips will have you in an upward arc, an upward trajectory. Okay, so it's very important to understand that that's the way this is going to work. So let me just get to some questions here. All right, so someone says, hey, I'm thinking of doing the Pro 90D. It's actually Pro 90D, but the D does stand for day. That's great. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I am going to post a link here for that. Let's get to some of the other questions that we might have. So here's a link for that. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so how to get rhythm in speech in initial phase of talk. How to get rhythm in the speech in the initial phase. Okay, so a lot of this, no, not a lot of it, all of it, we actually talk about in the programs. Let me just share a few things with you now. A lot of times people have trouble getting started speaking. In fact, I have a little mini program called How to Get Started Speaking Easier. And what tends to happen is this. You have something that you want to say, whatever it is, right? You have an intention to say something. And those initial words don't come out. They don't want to come out, right? There's a block, as they call it, a speech block. So what do people do? Well, they push it out. They push it out, or they don't say anything at all, or whatever. So you want to think of your speech and the way that you speak like water that flows. Water doesn't really stop unless it's dammed up, and even then it's still moving around in there, right? But water's going to flow. So if you see it in the ocean, if you see it in a creek or something, it's moving around. If there's an obstacle there, it's going to go over, it's going to go around, under. In some cases, wear the obstacle down and go through. Think of your speech like water. Don't dam yourself up. Don't limit the way you can get started speaking. So someone says, oh, I have to say this thing in this way. So it's very hard to get a rhythm going when you get started. Well, there's a lot of ways that you can actually get started speaking. And some of those ways we've talked about. You can start with introductory words. Yes, so, sure, I'm not sure, let's see, okay. All right, there's 1,000 of them. You can start with an introductory sound. Let's see, let's, right? So this is very, very normal, very, very normal. Lots of, I don't want to say most people do it, but lots of people do it. They use that initial sound. Now, I prefer, if I'm going to use an initial sound like an soft, quick I don't like or I don't really like those, and we all use them from time to time. But a soft, quiet let's see, and you go right into the word can get you started. That can save your life in a sense. Just get soft sound or a word. So, sure, okay, yes. All right. So these are all very, very simple techniques, tactics, if you will, that can help you get started. Now, strategically, the reason that you're doing this, I'm answering your question of how to get into that initial rhythm, getting those initial words out. Strategically, once you know that you have options for getting started for speaking, that you don't just have to start with the word that you think or that you want to start with, you can start with some introductory words or phrases or sounds, you're going to feel more relaxed. The more options you have, the freer you feel, the more relaxed and confident you feel. So when you start with a sound or a sound in a word or a word in a sound, and you find that you're able to get started by doing that. Let me give you an example. Years ago, many years ago, I used to work, one of my first jobs was working on the phone as an insurance representative, and used to have a problem saying hello. So I asked them when I was going through my training, is it okay if I say, yes, hello? They said, sure, no problem. So I would say, yes, hello, this is Michael Williams. Thank you for calling, blah, blah, blah. And just by adding that one word, I was able to say hello, yes, hello. So over the years, I've heard probably thousands, tens of thousands of people who also say yes, hello, or this is what. So there's different ways for you to get the flow going. Don't lock yourself in. Say, oh, I should be able to do this. Well, you should be able to do it, but right now you can't, right? So do it this way. And strategically, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to feel more free, more confident. You're going to have more flexibility. And once you're able to start saying what you want to say, you actually forget about the fact that you had trouble getting started. And when you forget about that fact, then you can just get started because you won't be thinking about it anymore. Okay. So how do you get into that initial rhythm and flow? Well, you give yourself more options for getting started. Now, the second part to that is to get started by speaking slower, by taking your time, taking in some air, using an introductory word or phrase or sound, if that's a problem for you getting started. And then you start off slow. You start with a slower rhythm. Okay. So once you do that, you're going to find, in fact, I tell all my clients when they have interviews that you want to start super slow because you're probably going to feel like you want to start fast. The anxiousness or nervousness or whatever is going to push you and motivate you to go fast. You don't want to do that. You want to counteract that by going slow. In some cases, starting super slow. That's also a great way to get you into the rhythm. Now, all of this comes right back to self-talk. I had someone say, oh, Michael, great webinars, great techniques, great advice, but in the situation, it all breaks down. Nothing works. Why? Because you can't just try to do it in the situation. You got to do it repeatedly. You have to turn it into a pattern. You have to turn it into a habit. So you have to be able to talk to yourself leading up to the moment. You have to remind yourself to do it every day, not just when you need to do it, but in your daily conversation. You do it by yourself. You practice it. You practice it with people with whom you're comfortable. When you're not having any problems, then you're going to be more able to do it when the pressure is higher. So all the things that I just talked about in terms of getting started, you're going to have to put yourself in speaking situations and then remind yourself to do these things consistently, not just once, not just 10 times, maybe 100 times or 1,000 times. Keep reminding yourself. Okay, so hope that that was helpful for you. All right, let's see. I want to come out from blocking of lungs. So when you say blocking, you're probably talking about you just don't have any air. You can't get that air that you're looking for, right? So you want something to say and all of a sudden, boom, there's no air. So a major part of what we do in this process is we help you recalibrate your breathing. And the thing that I want you to remember is it's not always just one thing that you can do that solves this problem. That's why in the Pro 90D Smooth Speech System, we address this from multiple angles, multiple dimensions. So we do have some breathing exercises like the 777. We have the free flow speaking exercise. We also have modeling, which, believe it or not, helps to recalibrate your breathing. Then You have other things that you learn how to do, extending and blending your words, inflecting, emphasizing, articulating. All these are what we call proactive speaking skills. There's affirmations, there's visualizations. So if you're saying, well, give me one thing, can't give you one thing because you're not going to know which of those skills that you're working on actually helps or addresses that particular issue. Now, I can tell you, based on my experience, that something like the 777 breathing exercise, free flow, speaking, extending, and blending are probably three of the things that can help with that. But when you're talking about that initial block, boom, you've got something to say, then we have to go back to what I originally said. You have to find a way to get the flow started. If your brain doesn't want to say something, no matter what you do, it's not going to come out unless you force it out. So what do you have to do? You have to do something that I call tricking your brain. You trick your brain. You come at it a different way. By simply adding one word or one sound, you can trick your brain. And there's lots of other ways, of which I can't go into all of them today. But the primary way is just adding something that your brain doesn't have a problem with. So if your brain says, I can't say hello, well, can I say yes, hello? Yeah. Okay, I can say that. Great. Say yes, hello. All right. You start saying yes, hello. Now your brain stops thinking about, oh, I can't say hello because now I'm saying, essentially I'm saying hello. I'm just saying yes, hello. So you keep saying it, and then you stop thinking about answering the phone, and then you pick up the phone and one day you just say hello. So, oh, where did that come from? Well, because you took the attention off of it, right? So when we talk about the air blockage, which is a physiological thing, but it's also a result of something that's happening psychologically. I mean, you now believe, because of your past experiences, that certain speaking situations, certain words or letters, you're not going to be able to say, you're going to block, you're going to get stuck. So what we have to do is start creating successful speaking experiences. So we have various strategies to help you to start creating successful speaking experiences. What are those strategies? All the ones I just told you, but modeling being a primary one, free flow speaking being another one, right? So when you do those, you actually start to see, oh, wow, I am able to get started. I am able to say the things that I want to say. So those successes, you want to capture them. You want to celebrate them, right? Don't say, oh, well, it worked this time, but it didn't work these other times. Well, of course, it's not going to work all the time at first. So you just celebrate the times when it does work and keep multiplying those and keep talking to yourself. So the question you asked had to do with the blocking of the lungs, the airflow, and so forth. But it's a multi-dimensional solution. So if you're looking for just one thing, can't give it to you. That's why Pro 90D is a system. It's a system. You need to consistently do all parts of the system, because the free flow speaking can help you. The 777 breathing exercise, the modeling is going to help you. The extending and the affirmation, all those things are going to help you. So it's a system. All right. Hope that kind of answered your question. Let's take a look. Any other questions here? How to stop my eyes rolling into the back of my head when stuttering. Can you talk about installation payment plans, please? Okay. So often I've seen, when people start to stammer, stutter, get stuck, their eyes start going back, and lots of other things. I had a gentleman, I've had lots of people actually, but someone who I've been working with recently, and when we started, his stuttering was severe. I mean, you would see faces and trembling and just, and I'm just severe. Smart guy, young guy. And he and I will be working together for about a year. But long before this year is up, if you talk to him now, you can barely see, if at all, that he's actually had a problem with stuttering, or that he's had that challenge. And part of the reason is because he immersed himself in this process, in this particular system. So these kind of secondary movements or body movements, facial movements, eye movements, there's a program that I have called the ABCs. I'll find that and post it. That's a great program because what happens is you have to be able to tell yourself before you're speaking and when you're speaking to stop, right? To literally not do that. Do anything else. Do anything else. Just don't do that. So if you and people say, well, yeah, but that's kind of stupid. Of course, if I could tell myself to stop, I would. But believe it or not, you can tell yourself to stop and you can stop, right? It's just that you may not know what else to do to get the words out, to get out what you want to say. But there are other things. So once you learn those other options for saying what you want to say, then one of your first jobs, one of your number one jobs initially, is to stop doing those physical actions that you have been doing, like rolling your eyes back. Just stop, keep your eyes forward, take a breath, and use an introductory word, or do this or do that. Again, you'll hear me repeat this. This is not about just one technique. I'll give you one technique. You go home, you use that technique, and magically it works. It's a system. It's a process, right? We're complex in a sense. So there's these two things that one must do if you want to change your speech. Number one, you have to create a confident mindset and speaking identity. It's kind of the psychological side. This is a part of that. Number two, you have to create a smooth, clear speaking style, right? So that's where the fit. So that has to do with breathing, has to do with how you articulate, your rhythm, and all of that. So how do we do this? Well, some of the things that we've already talked about, but it's a part of the system. Proactive speaking skills. We've talked about that. Learning to inflect, slowing your speech down, modeling someone else who speaks well. So you say, well, what are the techniques? These are the techniques, right? You might be looking for something else, but there is nothing. This is it. Even if you go out and you look at other programs, you're going to find that they're doing some of the very same things that we're doing. Why? Because it works. The difference is this is a complete system based off of neuroscience, neuroplasticity, habit formation, observational learning, personal experience, and the experience of my clients. The system is based on how to help you become an excellent speaker. We've been out doing this for about 11 years now. So some of the things that you see coming out are people who've watched our videos, because some of the approaches that we have weren't even out there, because I started not too long after YouTube came out, right? You might not see some of these videos, but I started way back in 2008. I was making videos long before that. So some of the techniques and the stuff that you hear coming out is a result of a lot of the work that Pro90D has pioneered into the system. Okay, so people will take it and they'll say, okay, great, let's put together a program and sell it. And let's focus on breathing, or let's focus on doing affirmations. Pro90D is a complete system of everything. It's a long answer to your question. How do you stop doing that? Well, you develop alternatives, and then you literally have to self-talk and say, okay, stop. Don't do that. Don't let your eyes, don't push the word out. That's exactly what I do with my coaching classes. Boom, stop. You have to learn to stop yourself and then do this instead. You're replacing one pattern, one habit with another one. I hope that makes sense. So payment plans. We have payment plans depending on what you're talking about. Payment plans for the self-study. If you go to that link, you'll find that there are some payment plans there. Those are the only ones that we offer right now. If you're talking about the coaching, why would you want to coach? Well, some of you, coaching is not going to be the best option for you now, for whatever reason. But for those of you who are professionals, you're in a position where you can afford the coaching. And most of all, you want to accelerate your progress. When you're working on your own, it can be extremely challenging. Why? Because people give up. This is not easy, so they just give up. Now, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. And people are doing it. But often it takes longer because people give up and then they come back. They give up and they come. They know it works, but it's just too hard. They don't feel like doing it. We get distracted. So we get distracted and discouraged. So working on your own usually takes longer, but it's better than doing nothing. It's better than doing nothing at all. You're going to see improvements. When you work with me one-on-one, we're going to accelerate the process because I'm going to hold you accountable, help you to stay consistent. You're going to be in a community of people that's going to be working with you. And I'm going to be able to give you very, very customized feedback on what you need to work on. So in terms of payment plans for that, whatever payment plans we work out, you have to have those paid before we start the coaching. Why? Well, because people give up. People will say, oh, why am I going to continue to make these payments when it's not working? Well, it is working. You're changing your brain. You're changing your mindset. You have to hang in there. So when you make the commitment, you're going to be more likely to stick in there until you see the results. And people go through those dips. So what happens is if you're making payments and you're in a downward dip, then people say, well, why do I want to keep making payments? So sometimes they won't, right? Or an emergency comes up, something happens. First thing you're going to do is, okay, I need money. Where am I going to get it from? Take it from the coaching, right? So then they stop and they don't continue. So I want to ensure that we've set up an environment for you to be successful. So therefore, you have to have your money paid before we start. You guys can look me up. You can look up my reputation. You'll see that I don't steal people's money and not deliver results. I've been doing this for a long time. All of my clients live in different parts of the world, different parts of the country. People trust me because I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. So that's how that is. And if you don't trust me yet, then don't hire me. Wait until you are in a position where you do trust me. Okay. So those are how the payments work for coaching, right? Most of the time, if someone does payments, they'll do 2 or 3 at most, then they'll get started. Most people actually make a one-time payment. That's where you get your best pricing. For the self-study, I think there's a 2 or 3 payment plan there. I'm not sure. I've got to take a look at it, but I know there's at least 2 payments, so you can do that. Okay. Hope that answered your question. All right. Please explain some breathing exercises. Let's see if there's an. All right. Let's see what we got. Please explain some breathing exercise. Okay, let me give you one. I'll give you one breathing exercise that's very, very simple. You can find this out there. We've got someone else here who is a self-study student. Sir, I'm your self-study student, really helped by the daily audios. They've literally changed my thinking. Ganraj, yes, I remember the name. Great. I think you're also a part of our group. So here's someone here who's a self-study student. He's invested time and money into the program, and he's seeing real changes. So I didn't put him up to this. You can ask him if the system really works. Now, he might not be exactly where he wants right now. Who of us get exactly to where we want, within a few days or weeks or whatever? It takes effort, it takes time, but it does work and it can change your life. So let's get to this question about breathing. I'm going to give you a breathing exercise. I'm just going to write it up here. 777. You've heard me, some of you have probably heard me talk about this. So let's talk about the 777 breathing exercise. What's the purpose of the breathing exercise and how can it help you? Purpose is, number 1, help you relax, right? When you do this breathing exercise, it's going to help you relax. Number 2, it can give you greater breath control. Learn to control your breath. So one of the things that I see happen is when people are speaking, they take in a little air, they let most of it out, and then they start speaking and they run out of air. So I've actually watched clients do that, and I can tell, I anticipate, I can say he's going to run into some problems with his speech in just a little bit, just a few moments, because I can hear he doesn't have enough air, she doesn't have enough air. And next thing you know, they start getting stuck. Their speech starts getting choppy because they don't have enough air. So what the 777 breathing exercise does is it gives you greater breath control. You start diaphragmatic breathing. You start breathing in through your nose at a count of 7. So you have to control your inhalation. You're controlling your breathing. You're controlling the pace at which you're inhaling, right? Breath control. You're holding that breath for a count of 7, right? And then you're exhaling or releasing through your mouth. You're inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth for a count of 7. And this is probably one of the more important parts of the 777, because it is on that exhalation that you will speak. Now, when you're doing the practice exercise, you're just breathing, you're not speaking. But when you're speaking, you're taking in air, and as you exhale, imagine the words riding the air out. So you're speaking on the exhalation, as opposed to taking in a breath, and in some cases a short breath, letting that air out, and then speaking without enough air. I always say air gives you power. So 777 is, you're going to breathe in at a count of 7 through your nose. You're going to hold. Okay, and then you're going to release for a count of 7. And you may have some left over, and that's okay. This very simple exercise, I've had many clients say when they do it, it's changed their speech, it's changed their life. Why? Because they start feeling more relaxed because you're doing a breathing exercise. They gain greater control over their breathing when they're speaking. When you have more air, you have more power, right? You're able to speak on the exhalation. So you want to practice this a few times a day. You might want to do anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 or more 777s, right? Do that in the morning, do it in the afternoon, do it in the evening. So that's one exercise that you can do that many people have said they have great success over. The other exercise, which I won't go into today, is the free flow speaking exercise. Okay, so that can help you to learn how to actually speak while you're maintaining airflow. All right, good. So let's see. Let's see this. Yes, Michael, definitely it's time taking, but it's making changes. Awesome. Awesome. In my personality as well, I'm going to give you a gift on my birthday, sir, because you have changed me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Great, guys. We're going to wrap it up. I just decided to do this at the last minute. So hope this was helpful for those of you that have joined this, and for those of you that might watch this later. We talked today about self-talk. And again, there's a whole component in the self-study. There's 3 videos or audios that talk about the power of smooth speech self-talk. I've talked about it in webinars, in live streams. You'll probably hear me talk about it to one degree or another in every single video that I do, some aspect of self-talk, because if you can't talk to yourself in that moment, then you're not going to be able to give yourself that command to do certain things. Just remember, just because you tell yourself to do it once in a conversation, or twice, or 5 times, doesn't mean it's going to work or last at that time, because it's about consistency, it's about repetition over time, consistent repetition over time. So here's another example. I had someone who they were trying to slow their speech down, and they were in a conversation, and they said they had to tell themselves like 50 times in that one conversation to relax and slow down. So they said it once, then a few seconds later, they forgot. They found themselves speaking fast again. Then they had, oh, I'm speaking fast again. Let me remind myself to slow down. So they did it again. Then, next thing you know, a few moments later, they were speaking. So they had to keep repeating this process. Well, guess what? If you keep doing that, conversation after conversation, day after day, week after week, first of all, you're going to start remembering, hey, I need to slow my speech down. And you're going to start to be able to hold that slower speech longer and longer. So there'll be less. So instead of 50, maybe it's 25. And then the more you do it, the more it becomes your new pattern, your new habit, right? That's what I'm trying to get across to you. So when you're learning these things from me, even just the little techniques or whatever, you have to be consistent with it. You have to look for the small successes, not just the big ones, not just the long term. Oh, this isn't working. Oh, this worked a little bit and it stopped. All right. You got to look, oh, this worked a little bit. Great. If I keep doing it, it's probably going to work a lot, right? Understand, oh, this worked. Now it's not working. Well, it's normal. Could be because of the placebo effect. Sometimes it goes up, you feel great, something works. All of a sudden it comes back down again. That's very, very normal, right? So you keep pushing through it and you'll come out like this. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions for me? Hello, sir. I'm struggling with stuttering for 5 years. What can I do? Well, Ganraj, Ganraj is a great person to answer that. So if I want to be concise, depending on where you are in your life, you may be a student or you may be a professional. I've actually had people who started following me as students, and they go all the way through college. They go and they get their master's degree, and then they get jobs. And some of them have taken courses and coaching with me and so forth. And so I've watched them throughout their lifetime. But one thing that you will need to do is get yourself into a community and into a system, an entire system to work on your speech. You'll hear me say this. If you want to transform your speech, you have to do two things. Number one, you have to create a confident mindset and speaking identity, because it's not just about breathing techniques or any other kind of techniques. Yes, techniques are helpful. But you're going to find that it's not just about techniques. How do we know this? Well, have you ever anticipated that you're going to block or stutter or get stuck? Have you ever just thought, okay, man, I got to go do this. I got to go do that. Of course you have. That's mindset and speaking identity. You haven't even opened your mouth yet. So it's not physical. It's mental. It's psychological. It has to do with your way of thinking and your speaking identity, how you see yourself. Does this make sense? So we have to create a confident mindset. Hey, sure. Yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I'm an amazing speaker. Confident mindset and speaking identity. The program helps you do that. We give you the tools. And a smoother speaking style. So that may mean speaking more dynamically, slowing your speech down a little bit, articulating better. It may mean inflecting instead of speaking at a monotone, like maybe using body language, right? Hand gestures and so forth. So we teach you all those skills. So you need a systematic approach to doing it. And then you need to stick with the system. So how can you address this? I would encourage you to get yourself into a community of other people who are moving in the same direction, and into a systematic approach that addresses these two areas. Even if it's not mine, make sure that you get into something that does. Obviously, we would invite you to be a part of the Pro 90D community, but if it's not a good fit for you, we understand that. We don't want to try to sell or pull someone into something just to generate revenue. We want you to choose the system that's best for you. So I put a link in the chat for people who are just getting started with us. You may want to start with the self-study. If you've watched our videos, you've tried stuff, you know that working on your own is not going to be the most helpful, then you may want to go ahead and just do the coaching. Again, that's totally up to you. So I hope I was able to answer your question. What should I do? Get into a systematic approach that also has a community. Our community is very, very powerful. These guys are meeting every single day for practice sessions, right? Every single day. So we have a strong community. They're not just practicing this technique and that technique and let's try this and let's try that. They have a systematic approach that they're applying, that they're using, that they are confident is going to get them to where they want. That's the difference. Other communities and other groups are pulling in techniques from all over the place. There's just stuff that they figured out that might work for them. Pro 90D is a proven systematic approach, and that's what people are working on, okay? So I hope that that's helpful. All right, so Ganraj here. One thing that really helps is to look at things in a positive manner, and that happens when you repeat your positive thoughts and affirmations. Exactly. So what he's talking about is the aspect of our of our program and of your own experience that has to do with your thinking, the way you, so your thinking, your mindset, and your speaking identity, what you believe about yourself as a speaker, what you say to yourself, that's going to drive everything else. It's going to drive all the techniques, all the skills. So that's very, very important. Very good. Any other questions? Okay. Let's look at this one. I stutter more or less around certain people. Why does this happen? Great question. Great question. So remember, almost everything comes back to patterns and identity. Okay, so you, I believe your name is Shannon, you have an identity, and more specifically, we're talking about speaking, a speaking identity that defines who you are and how you're going to speak around certain people and certain situations. So you have a speaking identity for answering the phone, for making phone calls, for initiating a phone call, for ordering food, for introducing yourself, for giving presentations, for when you speak with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends, with people in authority, with people you don't know. You have a speaking identity that defines how you're going to speak in all of those different speaking situations. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. So when you go, for example, to speak to someone in authority or someone that you don't know, then your brain automatically reverts to that pattern. So it doesn't have to use energy trying to figure out, how should we speak here? How should we react? How should we respond? No, your brain just says, oh, we're speaking to someone that we don't know or someone in authority, and goes into automatic, right? It just says, okay, boom, this is how you're supposed to act. And that's why that happens. It's a pattern. It's an identity. So what has to happen is you actually have to create a new speaking identity, a new pattern of how you're going to speak to all those different kinds of people and all those different kinds of speaking situations. And that's where our modeling comes in, and all the other things that we do, visualization, affirmation, self-talk, all those things help you create that confident mindset, confident speaking identity. I hope I answered your question. Pooja, all right, nice to see you too. Great, great. Any other questions for me? We've got a few more minutes. Any other questions that I can answer for you? So the thing that I want to encourage you to do is to understand the power of what you say to yourself all throughout the day, not just when you're in the speaking situation, right? Self-talk is a habit. It's a keystone habit. It's a habit that will affect every other habit in every other area of your life. So this is not just for speech, but it's for anything that you want to accomplish. You need to be able to talk to yourself, okay? To tell yourself how you want to think, what you want to think, how you want to feel, what you want to do. You need to be able to tell yourself to do that. So this needs to happen before, during, and even after, okay? Before, during, and after. So it's got to become a habit. So I want you to remember that, and remember that it's not just something you can do once or twice. You have to do it consistently. Okay, great. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, good. So guys, yep, looks like we have another comment. One thing which I'm seeing transformed in myself is that I now want to speak as much as I can. And in this current situation, I'm literally making random phone calls and trying to just chill and enjoy. So for those of you that didn't hear, Ganaraj is one of our self-study students. And as some of you have probably experienced, when you struggle with your speech, you may avoid speaking situations. You don't want to speak. You might not enjoy speaking. When you start to work on your speech, you start to transform your speech, you're also transforming, because Ganaraj says it's transforming his personality, right? You start to transform your speaking identity, how you see yourself as a speaker, your mindset, and your speech. Your speech gets smoother, and you start enjoying speaking. You want to go out and speak. Remember, your voice matters. Your voice is very, very important. People need to hear it. There are people out there who can be and will be impacted by you in a positive way once you can get your voice out. So this can be life-changing for you and for other people. So he's now literally going out just making random phone calls. Why? To practice his new speaking style, right? To make it a habit. So he's being what we call proactive. Proactive. So there's no doubt in my mind that as he continues to do this, his speech will continue to go to higher and higher levels. Pro 90D helps you turn your speech into what we call a superpower. Speech, your ability to communicate, to articulate your thoughts, to influence others is a power. And you want to transform what might be a liability for you right now. You want to transform this into one of your greatest assets. You want to develop this superpower. And it is a superpower because your words can tear down or it can build up. Your words can influence. Your words can persuade. Your words can make changes, can influence changes. So understand the power of your words. Understand the power of your ability to communicate. And what Pro 90D does has really nothing to do with helping you to stop stutter. It has everything to do with helping you become an amazing speaker, an excellent speaker, an outstanding speaker, becoming an authority for you, being able to say the things you want to say when you want to say it. So when you speak, people listen. That's what Pro 90D is designed to do. And if you do that, if you focus on that, stuttering, stammering, speaking too fast, the speaking anxiety, all take care of themselves. Great. All right. Any other community of stuttering people that you recommend? Stammering is a blessing. Very interesting. All right. So one person has asked if there's any other communities. Obviously, I'm not going to recommend any other communities, but there might be people who are on this call who might recommend other communities. I don't know of any. I remember when I first got started, I actually got kicked out of some, and I wasn't even trying to sell anything. I was just giving advice, and people got angry because I was saying, hey, you don't have to continue to struggle with this. And people were feeling like, no, they needed to accept it. They could manage it. They could pick up a few techniques here or there. And I was saying, no, you can actually transform stuttering to becoming an excellent speaker. And people just, they got mad at that concept, right? So I can't recommend other groups because I don't know what the philosophy of that group is. There are some groups out there, and you have to be careful. Their philosophy is acceptance. That is, accept the fact that you stutter, accept yourself as a stutterer, and yes, we can learn to manage it. I'm not saying that that's bad. That's legitimate if that's what they want to believe. What I say is that you may stutter, stammer, or struggle with your speech, but it's not necessarily who you are. It may be what you do right now, and it's something that's transformable. You can change it. And for those of you that want to change it, you don't want to be surrounded by people who don't want to change it. Maybe they've tried other stuff and they say, oh, I've tried everything. I even tried Pro 90D and it didn't work. I can guarantee you they didn't immerse themselves and try it for a long period of time. They probably just dabbled in it and said, oh, I've tried other stuff. Let me try this. Oh, I tried this and it didn't work. They already kind of set themselves up for it to fail. So you want to be a part of a group that has very consistent, solid, systematic focus of things that you can do that's going to improve your speech. You probably don't want to be a part of a group where you're just going to accept and just go through life and see this as a disability and I'll just kind of manage it. Now, again, I can't tell you what you should do, but I'm saying our communities for people that doesn't accept that this is the way they need to stay, that they accept the fact that they can become some of the best speakers in the world. All right. Long answer to your question. Ask our community and people can recommend some other groups if you feel like you want to be part of those. All right. So here's an interesting comment from Ganraj. Stammering is a blessing of God. So let's show his next comment. Because it makes us to work on our speech, and it's the opportunity for all of us, because nobody are as blessed as we are. So I've often said, in fact, I have some articles out there that, in a sense, say this, that this can be one of the greatest blessings of all. I know it's been a blessing for me, even before I started helping other people. Why is it a blessing? Why can it be a blessing? Well, you want to look at it, and then we'll wrap up here. You want to look at it as a gift, right? It's a gift. So says, ooh. But it's a gift that people have just been dragging behind them. So it's been slowing them down. So just think of it like a big box or a crate, and they're dragging it around. It's slowing them down. It's limiting them. Just follow me here. And once they stop and change their perspective, so they stop and they turn around, they go, wait a minute, I have this gift here, all right? They stop dragging it. They turn around, say, I have this gift. And then they unpack it, and they take out the box, and then they start to unwrap it. And this is the process of unpacking it and unwrapping it takes effort. It takes time. And as you do that, you start to discover the gift that you have of your becoming an amazing speaker. Why? Because at least in Pro 90D, you learn the same skills that people who are excellent speakers use. You learn to modulate your voice. You learn to inflect. You learn to articulate. You learn to use hand. You learn to make presentations. You learn to articulate your thoughts clearly. You learn to feel more confident, to be more confident. You're learning all those things that leaders know and learn and use, right? And so many people, most people, don't have to work on all those things. You do. You also have more compassion for people who are struggling because you've struggled, right? So you build greater character. So stuttering or stammering or really any kind of issue can be a gift only if you change your perspective about it, unpack it, and unwrap it, right? You got to, because if not, it's a gift that you're dragging around and it becomes a weight. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Thank you, Ganraj, for sharing that. Okay, if I speak by myself slowly, will it be helpful? I'll just answer this real quickly and then we'll wrap up. So a part of your practice initially should be by yourself, where the pressure is the lowest. You practice by yourself. Then you take a step up. You practice with family and friends. Then you practice with people that you don't know, right? So you're slowly increasing the pressure. So yes, it can help you, but if that's all you do, then no, it probably won't. So you practice by yourself, then you practice with friends and family, then you practice with people that you don't know. Okay? All right. Just as Ganraj says, definitely, and then try to build pressure step by step. First practice when you're relaxed. Exactly. So that's what we're saying. Practice when you're relaxed, when you're by yourself, then step up, friends and family, then people that you don't know. Okay? Wonderful. See you guys the next time. Remember, if you want to just get started, I would advise you to take the first step and look at our self-study. Some of you are going to be ready for working with me one-on-one. For those of you that are, then you're going to want to check out our coaching, okay? So you can go to our website, thesmoothspeechsystem.com, thesmoothspeechsystem.com, and you can check out the coaching, or you can check out the self-study or the coaching, okay? You can look on any of my videos and there's going to be a link that pops out for the coaching, but I've also posted here something for the self-study. So we'll see you guys next time.